The permission you never needed. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. And I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that came from a conversation I had recently with Camille Twiggs, a woman who is actively dismantling the systems that tell Black women to shrink, to soften their voices, to apologize for their ambition, and to seek permission before claiming their power. Camille is not just talking about change, she is creating a blueprint for what it looks like to move through this world without apology. And her insights are transforming how Black women navigate their careers, their relationships, and their own sense of self worth. She's paving the way for others and positively impacting the culture around her. And what she shared with me needs to be heard by every woman who has ever dimmed her light to make someone else comfortable. Let me ask you something. How many times this week have you apologized for something that didn't require an apology? How many times have you softened your opinion in a meeting because you didn't want to seem too aggressive? How many times have you edited your excitement, your ambition, your joy because you were worried about how it would be received? How many times have you rehearsed what you were going to say so it wouldn't come across as too direct, too bold, too much? Here's what Camille helped me understand. The real obstacle isn't your ambition, it isn't your presence, it isn't your unapologetic identity. The real obstacle is the validation seeking mindset that has been conditioned into Black women for generations. We've been taught to seek external permission before we claim our power. We've been taught to apologize for taking up space. We've been taught that our full selves are too much, too loud, too bold, too everything. And that conditioning, it's killing us softly. The data is clear and it's devastating. Black women are significantly underrepresented in leadership roles. We face unique barriers that don't exist for our peers. We're far less likely to get help navigating organizational politics. We're less likely to have our accomplishments promoted by managers. And we're expected to code switch, self edit, and shrink ourselves just to be considered palatable in professional spaces. But here's the truth that Camille is living and breathing every single day. When you refuse to apologize for being authentically yourself, you're not just advancing your own career or protecting your own peace. You're actively dismantling a system that has conditioned Black women to believe they need permission to exist fully. You're challenging the very foundation of a culture that profits from your silence, your smallness, your self doubt. Let me break down three lessons that came from my conversation with Camille. Three insights that will shift how you move through your career, your relationships, and your own soft girl era. The first lesson is this: self awareness is your foundation for unapologetic living. You cannot move without apology if you don't know who you are, what you value, and what you're working toward. This aligns with something called the Career Mastery Framework, which emphasizes self awareness as the cornerstone of career advancement. When Black women gain clarity about their strengths, values, and career goals, they maintain a strong sense of purpose even in isolating or unsupportive environments. Camille's journey from single mom to the woman she's inspired to be is rooted in this self knowledge. She knows who she is, and that knowledge gives her permission to stop apologizing. She doesn't need external validation because she's done the internal work to validate herself. Think about that for a moment. How much energy are you spending seeking validation from people who don't even understand your journey? And how much mental space are you giving to voices that have never walked in your shoes? How much of your creativity, Your brilliance, your innovation is being drained by the constant need to prove yourself worthy to people who are never going to see you fully anyway. Self awareness isn't just about knowing your strengths, it's about knowing your worth so deeply that you stop asking others to confirm it for you. It's about understanding that your value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's perception. It's about recognizing that the same qualities that make you powerful, your directness, your passion, your refusal to settle, are not flaws that need to be managed. They are gifts that need to be unleashed. This is where your soft girl era begins, not in the external trappings of rest and softness, but in the internal reclamation of your identity. You cannot rest in who you are if you don't know who you are. You cannot set boundaries if you don't know what you're protecting. You cannot say no without guilt if you haven't said yes to yourself first. The second lesson is this: workplace mastery means refusing to shrink. Navigating corporate dynamics doesn't require you to become smaller or quieter. Research shows that Black women are far less likely to get help navigating organizational politics and are less likely to have their accomplishments promoted by managers. This systemic gap exists precisely because Black women have been conditioned to apologize for taking up space. When you develop executive presence and cultivate key relationships without dimming your light, you're not just advancing your own career, you're challenging the entire system that expects Black women to be palatable. Workplace mastery, in Camille's framework, means mastering the space on your own terms. Let me be clear about what this means. This isn't about being reckless or dismissive of others. This isn't about bulldozing through relationships or ignoring feedback. This is about refusing to edit yourself into a version that's acceptable to people who were never going to accept you anyway. You know what I'm talking about. The code switching, the constant monitoring of your tone, the way you rehearse how you're going to say something in a meeting so it doesn't come across as too direct, the way you soften your language, hedge your opinions, and downplay your accomplishments just to avoid being labeled as difficult or aggressive, the way you smile when you don't feel like smiling, the way you nod when you want a challenge, the way you shrink when you should be expanding. That emotional labor, it's exhausting. And it's stealing energy that could be used for actual innovation, actual leadership, actual impact. It's robbing you of the mental bandwidth you need to solve complex problems, build meaningful relationships, and create the kind of change you were put on this earth to create. Camille's approach is different. She shows up fully. She speaks her truth clearly. She takes up the space she's earned. And when she does that, she creates permission for other Black women to do the same. She becomes a living example that success doesn't require self erasure. She proves that you can be authentically yourself and still be respected, valued, and promoted. The third lesson is this: your authenticity is your competitive advantage. Your full, unapologetic self is not a liability in your career or personal life, it's your greatest asset. Black women with leadership ambitions are particularly interested in paving the way for others and positively impacting company culture. When you show up authentically without apology, you create permission for other Black women to do the same. You become a living example that success doesn't require self erasure. Your authenticity becomes contagious, transformative, and ultimately more valuable than any version of yourself that's been edited for comfort. Think about the women who are watching you right now, the younger Black women in your organization who are looking for a model of what's possible, the single moms who are trying to figure out how to balance ambition with motherhood, the high achievers who are exhausted from performing strength and wondering if there's another way, The women who are one more microaggression away from walking out the door because they can't take another day of pretending to be someone they're not. When you show up unapologetically, you give them a roadmap. You show them that thriving without apology isn't just possible, it's the standard. You demonstrate that they don't have to choose between authenticity and advancement. You prove that the most powerful thing they can bring to any table is their full, unedited, unapologetic self. Now, let me tell you what happens when more Black women adopt this perspective, when more organizations embrace this truth. The ripple effects are transformative. When Black women stop seeking external validation and start leading from their authentic selves, organizational cultures shift. Managers are forced to recognize and promote accomplishments they might otherwise overlook. The constant emotional labor of code switching and self editing decreases, freeing up mental and creative energy for actual innovation and leadership. Companies benefit from the full intellectual and creative capacity of Black women employees who are no longer expending energy on self censorship. Think about what becomes possible when that energy is redirected. Think about the projects that get completed, the innovations that get launched, the teams that get built, the cultures that get transformed. Beyond the workplace, this shift creates cultural momentum where younger Black women, whether they're navigating single motherhood, entrepreneurship, or corporate advancement, see that thriving without apology is not just possible, it's the standard. It becomes the new normal, it becomes the expectation rather than the exception. This is what your soft girl era is really about. It's not just about bubble baths and boundary scripts. It's about the spiritual, emotional, and mental recalibration that happens when you stop apologizing for existing. It's about dropping the superwoman cape and realizing that softness is not weakness. It's a radical act of self love. It's about learning to say no without guilt, setting boundaries without apology, and resting without explanation. It's about embracing healing, wholeness, softness, and emotional honesty as your birthright, not as something you have to earn. So here's your challenge: identify one space, professional or personal, where you're currently apologizing for being yourself. Just one, and commit to showing up unapologetically in that space for the next 30 days. This isn't about being reckless or dismissive of others. It's about reclaiming the energy you've been spending on seeking permission to exist. Notice what happens when you stop softening your ambition, your opinions, or your presence. Document how people respond. More importantly, document how you feel. Write it down. Track the shift. Notice the moments when you want to apologize and choose not to. Notice the moments when you want to shrink and choose to expand instead. This 30-day experiment will give you tangible proof that Camille's philosophy isn't just inspirational, it's practical and powerful. It works and it will change your life. Because here's the truth that Camille embodies and that I want you to carry with you: you never needed permission, you never needed validation. You never needed to apologize for being exactly who you are. The world taught you survival. Your soft girl era is teaching you softness. But the bridge between those two things, that's unapologetic authenticity, that's self awareness so deep that external opinions become background noise. That's workplace mastery on your own terms. That's showing up fully and trusting that your authenticity is your competitive advantage. Camille Twiggs is living proof that this works. She's creating a blueprint for what it looks like to move through the world without apology. And every Black woman who follows that blueprint is creating permission for the next one. Every woman who refuses to shrink is expanding the space for someone else to grow. Every woman who speaks her truth is making it easier for someone else to find their voice. So I'm asking you today, what would your life look like if you stopped apologizing? What would your career look like if you stopped seeking permission? What would your relationships look like if you stopped editing yourself for comfort? What would the world look like if every Black woman decided today that she was done shrinking? The permission you've been waiting for, it doesn't exist. It never did. The only permission that matters is the permission you give yourself. And I'm here to tell you that you are enough. You have always been enough. Your ambition is not too much. Your voice is not too loud. Your presence is not too bold. You are exactly what this world needs, exactly as you are. Stop apologizing. Stop shrinking. Stop seeking validation from people who are never going to see you fully anyway. Your soft girl era isn't about becoming smaller, it's about becoming more authentically, unapologetically, powerfully you. And when you step into that truth, when you claim that power, when you refuse to apologize for your existence, you don't just change your own life, you change the trajectory for every Black woman who comes after you. That's the permission you never needed. That's the power you've always had. Now go use it.